All right, good afternoon and welcome to Summit Salon Community Live Forum today. I'm so happy to be with you and talking about all things about the spa guest experience. A special thank you and shout out to our special friends at L'Oreal PPD that gives us all the resources to be able to help support our salon and spa companies with the latest in hair care, trends, tips, products, all the things. So, my name is Victoria Perry, and I am the Spa Specialty Team Leader and Salon and Spa Consultant here at Summit Salon Business Center. But I'm also a licensed esthetician and owner of a salon and spa in Perrysburg, Ohio. And I have a special friend with me today, Lacey Jarvis from Clip Zone Salon and Spa, as well as a Summit name trainer. You've seen her on her social digital, featured on Michael Cole. So Lacey, thanks for joining me today.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me.
So Lacey, I would just love for you to share a little bit about your story and what brought you to Summit and what brought you, let's start with the industry. Like what made you become an esthetician and then how did your career kind of grow from there?
So I am a licensed, have been a licensed esthetician for over 13 years now. I graduated from, I don't know if anyone remembers T-Spa Salon Professional Academy back in the day, now Summit Salon Academy. I have always been extremely interested in skincare and aesthetics. I actually had a family member who was an esthetician who just kind of introduced me and opened my eyes to the world. And I knew that that was something that I wanted to do. So I have been with Clipzone all of the 13 years that I've been a licensed esthetician. Um, and our owner, Nicole Mitchell, she runs the associate division for Summit. And so we have just been her little Summit babies there at Clip Zone and have grown up in Summit doing, all of the Summit things. And I love the company. I just think it makes it so easy to be successful in this industry.
Yeah, I love that. And so Lacey, you and I have worked together a lot of those years. Gosh, I
Mhm.
think 13 years. I've been doing aesthetics now for 15 or 16, and it seems like the industry has just changed so much from what we first started off doing until what's like on trend now, right?
So much. I mean, social media has taken it and has blown it up, and I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, I was just actually talking to a friend that's in pharmaceutical sales and this weekend, and she was saying that, in their internal group of colleagues that have been in sales forever, she works for like a diabetes medicine manufacturer, but she's saying that how everyone is like wanting to jump ship to skincare because, it's just growing so fast from even like the manufacturing standpoint and sales
Oh,
reps. So
I'm
I mean,
sure.
I think this is definitely a great place to be. And I think more importantly, our conversation today is really going to talk about why we have to define ourselves as the expert when it comes to so many of these other platforms giving skincare advice and DIY skincare. But what's really going to make the spa guest have an experience that wants them to continue to have our professional experience and expertise. And today we're going to talk about that. So I'm super excited to share some best practices in my own company. But I know, Lacey, you have so many best practices in your own 13 years of doing skincare that have really kept yourself elevated. And I think more
Yes.
importantly, when we think about Clipstone or we think about Soto, my company, it's like these are legacy companies where they've had decades of years opened in the business. And it's like in our community, we have to continue to be the market leader and we have to continue to elevate those guest experiences even after they've been seeing us for the last 15, 20 years, right? Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
So
I'm
my guests have always said it's like this. So I have so many who have been with me since the very beginning. They're like, there's so many things that you do that you've always done, but there's also those things that you've taken and we can tell that you have just kind of steamrolled with it and have elevated it to new heights. And that's really what is so important in our industry and in our treatment rooms. And if we have multiple estheticians, making sure everybody's on the same page with, because they are, when you can perfect them, that's what's going to keep those guests returning to you
Yeah.
years
Yeah,
for years.
exactly. So awesome. Well, let's jump into some of these best practices. And, I think this really comes down to the foundations of the spa professional success wheel. So, you may see this program on Summit 365, but I always like to share this program really began with Lacey and I actually consulting together. I was in her company and we were consulting, and this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, where there was a huge increase in like multi-level marketing companies that were really driving a lot of our retail sales out of the salons and spas and into that sector. And I think that was like really before like TikTok and all of that became really viral with like skincare advice. And so, you were talking to your friends or your community members, and, they wanted to, support their fellow like friend or family member with, purchasing these products. But what happened is, then we as skincare professionals really, took a little bit of a dip in just trying to combat with some of that auto ship, one product line is going to do all of the skincare that you need kind of piece to that. So as Lacey and I were talking about, in her own, you know, challenges in her own business, trying to really focus on retail, our conversation really led to the beginning stages of this spa professional success wheel. And it's really just to say, if you kind of remember Michael Cole, like, the top 20 mindset and these power wheels are really just to show consistency. And so if we look at the three core focuses of this, it's identifying concerns, creating solutions, and implementing results. And so to that consistency that Lacey was speaking about, it's really about creating more systems. So that way, when we have someone calling in for the reservation or coming in for the check-in process, we're making it more of a prescriptive experience and really identifying, what is their need with us? Is it correction? Is it just relaxation? And then as a therapist, when I'm creating solutions through my consultation, I'm also going to be working on recommending treatment plans and products to really drive in those results, but also show my that skincare is a must and it has to become part of the beauty lifestyle. And then implementing results is just that last impression of their experience. So, how they're checking out, and then how do we continue to have a follow up with them even after they've left our company. So, I'm excited to share some best practices with you and Lacey and I, and just how we put into place some key focuses to these specific core focuses. So, with that being said, we know that, there's three real main objectives that we wanted to, come into place today with our time. One was, how do we have the scripting with spa luxury language? So, verbiage is everything. And what Lacey and I have often said is, what's hard is when we're training someone new, they're in closed doors. So we don't necessarily hear what they have to say or how they're saying it. So, sometimes it's really about guest feedback is how we know we have to, mentor or coach our professional to have more intelligent verbiage. But that's what's really key about the spa associate program, which Lacey is so well versed in as well, is that by us being able to bring a therapist in the room, we're able then to work on understanding how to speak to a guest and understanding what to say. And like we say at Summit, use our words until you find your own. So we're going to talk about spa luxury language and give some examples on how verbiage is really key to the elevating experience. We're going to talk about first impression check-in. So, I mean, gosh, more than ever, we need to make sure that our spa is almost, concierge level of experience, and guests are really finding that unique greeting and being able to shop our retail space. And so, we're going to talk about the four-step check-in and why that's so important. And then finally, obviously, because it's spa, we have not only the physical touch of us doing the services, but there's so much beyond that, whether it comes to essential oils, the ambience of a room, sight, smell, all of those things. So we're going to talk about how to really elevate that sensory journey for you as well. So, spa luxury language, I think, is something for me that I'm really passionate about. And I think going back to me, um, starting in the industry, it was very overwhelming, all of the terminology of all the ingredients. And so I really remember listening to how my coworker Leah would explain either products or how someone would, get into the treatment table or take a guest walk into the treatment room. So the example we have here is really in that check-in process of, them calling to book an appointment, and instead of them, telling us they want a facial, and we're saying, well, what facial would you like to receive? Right? We're putting it into a question to say, thank you for inquiring about our facial services. Are you experiencing any areas of concern that you'd like your spa professional to focus on during your visit? And for me, it's now opening up a lot more conversation to say, okay, now we're going to get a little bit more information about, what the desired needs are for that treatment. Maybe it is relaxation. Maybe they have a gift card. Maybe they don't get facials often, but it helps set up the provider to have better success in knowing what to plan for that treatment. Lacey, share with me when you think about luxury language and you think about really that verbiage with guests, like what are some of your coined terms that you say through the process?
So, like you, luxury language is also something that I am passionate about and try to really push on um, to some of the other licensed estheticians that work with me. Think about what you're saying, think about what you want to say, and say it out loud a couple times. Say it to somebody a couple of different times and see what kind of feedback are you getting from them, because there's always ways that we can improve the wording we're saying, right? But you really have to just kind of in your mind say, I have to get to the focus and the bottom of what this guest is in here for and what her their long-term goals are, right? That's how you are going to really crack the code on how to, not number one, not only help them but keep them coming in your treatment room in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, reoccurring. So I wouldn't necessarily say I have coin phrases because each client is so different, right? Um, but, there are checkpoints that I am going through in my mind during each consultation, trying to get exactly what they're looking for within the treatment. Like you said, it could be a one-time gift card client, which is totally fine. Or it could be somebody that will be reoccurring. No matter what, you have to know what type of experience to give that individual guest then and looking into the future.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that's important to note that like, every consultation is going to be customized to that person. And
Mhm.
it's really about that long-term goal. Like that was the one thing that you said. I'm like, okay, what is some long-term goals? Is it just, I think what's the beauty of the self-care era that we're in now is that people are making it more of an initiative. So, what's their beauty budget, whether it's the time that they commit or the financial investment that they want to commit with that too? I think it's a really um, good
Budget
way to
is
put
one
that too.
thing that I always say. So that is one, I guess if I had a coin phrase, something that I would make sure is in each time I'm speaking to them. But because it eliminates the can you pay, like, can you pay for this? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's such an uncomfortable time to talk about budget anyway. So even phrasing it as simple as, what have you budgeted for a beauty treatment today or
yeah,
ongoing? Huge difference, huge difference.
yeah, exactly. I love that. And
Mhm.
here's the thing, like I think going back to like when we thought about guests coming in to experience a service, it used to be every 6 to 8 weeks, and now we're seeing a higher frequency of, the 4 to 6 week appointments. So, I'm trying to just identify what that concern is and then game planning, what that treatment plan is going to look like, I think is highly, highly important.
Highly, absolutely.
And then when we think about the elevating the spa guest experience, I mean, it really goes to when we're having those types of conversations, we're defining ourselves as the expert, not someone else. Right.
Yep, absolutely, yes. Every time they pull up TikTok, there's so many different experts trying to push all their information.
Yes.
Who knows where it comes from?
Oh my gosh, totally. And then when I think about first impression check-in, I mean, I know in my company, like we have a separate spa check-in area, which is not normally the case for a lot of salons and spas. Typically, the spa will be like in the back and you're checking into some one main desk. But, I think it's really important to understand that there's a different dynamic of conversation that's going to be happening from someone checking in for salon services versus someone checking in for spa. So when we're welcoming them into our space, I think, understanding that there's like a time of relaxation or solitude, or maybe they're a little nervous because they're in for a treatment that they never yet to expect. So I always like in that welcome to, talk about a refreshment, making sure that they see some like amenities that we have in our space. We want to definitely let them know about those retail specials and letting them know that this is a place for them to shop. Um, they're going to Ulta, they're going to Sephora, and they're shopping all of these beauty care counters. And so we want them to know that they don't even need an appointment to shop with us. They can browse and whenever they're wanting to, just as a retail storefront. Time for additional services. And I think, whether it's just highlighting some amenities that we have, whether it's add-ons that can or cannot be done today, and telling them they can feel free to, shop around or browse. Now, in my company, you'll actually go into like a relaxation lounge and you'll fill out your paperwork there. So it's a little bit more private, but I really feel like it's giving more of that concierge level of experience and just really welcoming them to the space. So, Lacey, share with me, like, what are some of your check-in best practices when a guest is coming in for a spa service?
So we are one of those companies that has the same check-in area as the salon does. Um, so I always in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how can we elevate this? Because we don't have a space that they can go into and relax and not hear the busyness of the salon.
Yes.
Um, so, when they come back, we have curtains at the end of both of our hallways to the spa, and the lighting's a little bit different. But I always make sure that my intake form is ready, that we are having that conversation as I am bringing them back into the room, because I have them usually fill it out in there. But just making sure everything looks as next level also as possible
Yeah.
is super important when you don't have that separate space. They have to feel like they just walked into a top level spa, because they have. But making sure everything is quiet. We are having that conversation about what add-ons do you think you're wanting to do today, although that takes time mostly in the consultation. But still, just making sure, even if you don't have that separate space, that you're doing everything that you can within the space given to create that ambiance, if you will. Just being thoughtful of things like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And so, it's like even if there's like a designated like space where they could fill out their forms, that's maybe like in a corner where like the salon space isn't, I think about beverages. So like we have like coffee, water, and hot tea. That's always something, or a flavored spa water. With some essential infused or fruit infused water with that, which
Yeah.
kind of goes into like our next phase, which I think is super important, is just to understand it is a sensory journey when you're coming into our companies. And I just literally had this today. So I'm working in my own company a few days a week, still taking guests, and um, there's like facials all day, so you can smell like the essential oils from all the treatment rooms. And a client that I was bringing on back to do an eyebrow wax, first time client, was like, "Oh my gosh, it smells so good back here." Because like your space and mine, and most spa companies that are here, people don't know maybe like all of the spa space that's back there because it's behind a closed door, right?
Right.
And so she
Yep.
comes back here and so she lays on the treatment table, and it's heated, and we have like the bolster for her back, and she goes, "Oh my gosh." She goes, "This makes me want to get a facial." And so then we have the conversation about the facial, and then she's booking the facial when she leaves. And so it really just came from the ambiance. It was like the immediate sensory journey of what she could smell, the feel of the space. So I really want to focus some time on this because I think this is really what elevates the guest experience and really just creates a difference from them being able to do this at home, number one, because I think that's another thing. Yes, we want them to be able to do their skincare products, but treatment base we need to be doing here in the spa underneath. a licensed professional. Um, 2, I think it's really about, like, how do we, like, wow them, the wow factor? Like, what are those special touches that I think can give them to think about, like, "That was worth the investment of my budget for these beauty care services." So I'm just gonna share with you some of my best practices of what we've come into play, and, like I said, just love for you to share yours. But for us, we've created our signature essential oil blend. So basically, it's 3 notes. I'm sorry, wild orange, lavender, and lemon. And so we do hints of these, and each room has their own like essential oil customization. So this is what we do all of our steam towels with. If there's a diffuser in the room, that's what we have. One thing that you talked about earlier, which I think is probably a big conversation for a lot of individuals, is noise and like how to drown out some of the busyness of the salon space with that. So each of our rooms actually we have overhead like soundtrack music, like a Sonos, but each of our rooms actually have one of the cloud machines. So like you can actually put this a noise machine. So get these from Amazon. I think it was like maybe $30, but there's different settings to this, whether it's going to be, like waves, whether it's going to be like just kind of that white noise. And I think there's even like birds chirping, like in nature, but we'll use that in conjunction with our overhead and even that. And we've had some other white noise machines too, just because also, even if you're back in the spa, like our salon's separate, but we can hear people in other treatment rooms. Like if it's you're doing a facial and they're doing a wax, the the conversation is going to be a lot
Yep.
different in a Brazilian wax than it is going to be in a facial. So uh I really
Yeah.
find that elevation for that. And then we obviously have people try change into a wrap and robe when they're coming in for our spa services. And even just having that customized, spa music and so forth. So sure, that's kind of like my like I feel like when I think about, our setup, like those are like non-negotiables. Like there's going to be the essential oil blend, and we want that to be consistent. In the holidays, we sell a candle that has that blend. So we just try to kind of keep it like moving. And then everyone's always going to change into a wrap, and then they're going to have that music or that white noise, so that way they can fully like digress into like the space. So with you, what are some of those best practices that you like to create a real sensory experience with?
So we too have a signature essential oil blend, and that was after I think a conversation I had with you a couple of years ago, just about
Yeah.
how to further enhance the experience back there. Um, ours is the same as yours, except peppermint in place of lavender. It smells so good, so good.
Yeah.
Um, so in each of our rooms, we too have a sound machine in conjunction with the spa music. But the one thing that we are kind of known for is we've bought these little almost like projectors that well they are projectors. They project like a galaxy, I guess, on our
Yeah.
ceiling. So it's all of these super, just like warm lighting with some stars in there. But I am not kidding. I bet you I have got so many clients to reserve skincare appointments from microblading appointments from different things that were not for spa, but they've walked by one of the rooms or they've sat in there and they're like, I have to come relax in here right away. Absolutely. Um, so, just really figuring out what you can do with the space that you have. We too can hear each other in each of the rooms. So adding that noise machine to our soundtrack um, has been a total game changer. We also could never land on a certain sound that we loved for our rooms. So we actually have, it's taken a really long time, but gone through and found different songs there that are really soft, blended with some nature sounds and some water sounds and some different instrumental music. And we've created our own playlist to have in each of our rooms that way.
Oh, love that.
So yes, and then as soon as you walk back, actually through one of the curtains into our hallway, We've bought these custom shades for our lighting to make our lighting super soft. I mean, people say every single time, it's like you just enter through a portal and you go back into the back part of our salon company. And it's like, I never would have expected this to look, sound, feel, smell this way, but we've put a lot into it. We also have put a lot into, which I think this is probably taking it a step further, but into our guest bags too that they take home. They always have specific thank you notes that we've created from each of the service providers based on who they've seen, things like that. So just really thinking, how can I make this as um, just as unforgettable as possible,
Yeah.
on top of the fact that their skin is going they're going to leave looking absolutely beautiful. They now have had this amazing experience that you've created for them as well.
Yeah. So, I think, you've made a lot of these special touches, and a lot of these things are just, they're not huge investments, right? So, I mean,
Those
they're,
lights, I think, are like maybe $40.
yeah,
They are not a huge investment at all, but it is the number one commented thing. No matter which service provider, if you ask them, they'll say the lights.
yeah. Well, and I love because your social media, when you've done photos or video of your treatment room, like I've seen it too. And I was like glad that you brought that up because I'm like, I think that's like a cool feature that I've just
Yeah.
noticed, not even being in the new space.
Anytime a client takes a picture of the room, it's they've always taken a picture of the ceiling snapping upwards while they're laying there
Yeah.
with the
Oh.
lights up there. It's awesome.
And I think, Lacey, I love that you brought this up because, in my spot, we have that separate spa space where there's a hallway that separates the salon and the spa. So it's like a guest bathroom. So I mean, though there is noise, there's not the noise that most companies have,
Right.
like in your space. And you guys have a brand new, beautiful building, and, you're still going to have some of the noise. And I know a lot of companies
Yeah.
that are in the community, have whether it's one or two treatment rooms that are kind of off in the corner or off of the space. And I think, there's so many different ways that we can drown out the music. But I think it's
Yeah.
like what they feel in the space, like with the lighting, with the smell, that it's going to heighten those other senses to making to where the noise sensory is not going to be as high. And I've even had clients that have like given their I've even had accounts that have given their guests like a little like AirPods to put
Oh
in,
yeah.
or so they can listen to that music. So it's helping also drown out if there's excessive noise on the outside, or maybe you're in like an open concept space where there's
Yeah.
people next to you having services. So I love that you share that because those are some really key, unique features that I think are really simple and easy to implement, but make a big
Absolutely.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. It doesn't have to take a lot to make big changes within your
You,
space.
and if you've ever read, or if anyone on this who listens to this program has ever done Salon Emotion, you know that only the reason why people come back, it's 15% due to the service and 85% is due to the total experience, which I believe is like all of the things that we talked about today. It's the ambiance, it's the warm welcome, luxury language. It's all of those pieces that I think can make a huge impact and make it worth like I'm getting this reprieve. And I know my business partner talks about, we need it all the time. She's like, just sell sleep time. And I think they fall asleep when they're doing their services, but that's becoming a thing, like sell nap time and,
Yeah.
have them just rent the room to sleep because they're gonna have all of this, right?
Well, and I know you've had that guest who before has been like, "Oh, I will pay you for an hour on my lunch break to come and let me sleep in here." And they're just joking, but it's like, I mean, it's pretty relaxing in here. I don't blame you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered some really good points to what, the spa guest experience is, and there's so many building blocks to this.
So many.
Lacey and I are both consultants within Summit, and for us, it's about giving you that perspective as a licensed esthetician, the both of us, and spa owners and managers. What's worked for us, and I think a lot of it's just come from us working together as a coaching team and really just trying to drive in, oh, I've seen this or this worked for me. Let's see how you implement it. And both have had great success with that. So that's our goal for you. And we'd love to give you a complimentary 30-minute spa discovery call where you can just scan this QR code and let's just talk about ways that we can really think about your guest experience in the spa and what are some easy first steps for you to elevate that. So I think, the sensory experience, those are some great, um, corporate kind of organizational ideas, but I also think even with your team, really when's the last time they've had a true spa experience? And I think that's also the missing link that I know for my team, it's just they don't ever get to know what it feels like to be a spa guest. And so it's really important that we allow them to be a guest in our own company so they can see it from a guest perspective of what that feels like and they can be more heightened and aware of how to continue to make that happen really well. So
Absolutely.
Lacey, if you were to think about one little word of advice for the spa guest experience off of everything that we covered today, um, thinking about, the guests that you have still coming in year after year and making those unique offerings, um, what is like, do you feel like just all of this has just become so natural for you? Like it's like you don't even know life before like implementing all of these cool accessories and experiences, right?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that just kind of helped me propel forward was understanding luxury language and how to use it.
Yes.
Um, it's such a when you think of luxury language, I've had people be like, "What? What are you talking about?" But it's so effective. And I wish that people spent more time thinking about what they want to say and how they can say it, um, for lack of better words, better. um,
Yeah.
but just learning how to, it's not even so much about bettering your language, it's learning how to understand what they're trying to say as well. I mean, it's such an important conversation. It can take a client and turn them from a one-time thing into or one-time service into somebody who sees you for years to come. If you can learn how to effectively communicate what you are trying to say in your consultations, things like that, that is one thing that has just helped me with retention, and with retention, comes things like building around you that whole better experience with sound machines, with lights, with things like that, because you do have, I mean, it's all connected. It's all a
Yeah.
part of the experience in totality. But um, luxury language, I preach on it all day long.
Yes.
It's my favorite.
Yay. So one of the great resources, like we said, Summit Salon 365, elevating the spa guest experience. It's going to be a whole workshop really based upon the spa professional success wheels. But there's like you said, the luxury language, there's a deliverable for that. There's intake forms. So definitely check out that Summit 365 option. And I think, even sharing that login with your team and, doing this as a team meeting is a great first step. But then also, as consultants, we can actually facilitate that workshop for your company and customize that language even more for your specific service menu and needs. So,
Highly recommend.
yay.
Victoria,
Well,
you did that
Lacey,
for us so long ago, and it was the best thing ever. The best thing ever.
oh, well, it was a pleasure talking with you today, Lacey. And I love having your experience and guidelines. I think it's going to help others, put things into action. So, thanks for joining us for this week's Summit Community Forum, all about the spa guest experience. And keep an eye out because Lacey and I have a bunch of new forums coming out to you in September and October too, about how to drive an aesthetic, building the aesthetic career. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for joining.